everybody. You are very welcome again to Writer's Block. And I have an absolutely outstanding guest with me today. Everybody, this is a wonderful book. It is called From Harlem Hoodlum to Hollywood Heavyweight. And I am absolutely delighted to have with me today Hank Garrett. Hank, you're very welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I was just enthralled by this book. You've written it in such a loving way. Your reflections on your mother, your father, everything. It's such a diverse book. And for the viewers at home, Hank, as many of us will recognize, has been in so many movies, so many different TV series. But of course, he ran other careers as crossover almost while he was doing other professions. He is a grandmaster in karate, but you were also a wrestler as well, weren't you, Hank?
Yes, I never knew what I wanted to do with my life. I started studying martial arts because I was a victim of a gang. I got my nose broken at the age of 9 by a gang member. Came over and saw me standing there and just punched me in the face and broke my nose. And one of the other gang members said, "Why did you hit that kid?" And he said, "Well, he cursed my mother." I'd never seen him before in my life. And the wonderful thing is God handles things in such mysterious ways. I trained in martial arts. I started when I was 11. And then I started pumping iron when I was 13. And I was a monster. And I ran into the guy who broke my nose.
When you were 9?
I remembered him, and I walked over to him and I said, "You remember me?" And he said, "I don't know you, man." And I said, "I'm the kid whose nose you broke when he was 9. And now I'm going to kill you."
Oh!
And he fell to the ground. And he said, "Oh, please don't beat me, man. Don't kill me. Please, please, please." And I realized at that moment, I had my revenge. I didn't have to do or touch him. And I leaned over as I walked away and I said, "Oh, and please say hello to your mom for me."
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
And I have been such a believer. Sammy Davis Jr. got me off the street. I was a street hoodlum. My mom and dad were fruit and vegetable peddlers with a push cart. And my mom's best customer was a gentleman who was the mayor of Harlem. He was a band leader and the mayor. And she kept crying to him that I was always in trouble. I was on the street corners. I was fighting all the time. And he came up to me and he said, "You know who I am?" I said, "No, I don't know you." He said, "First of all," and he slapped a cigarette out of my mouth. I was 12. And I looked at, who is this guy? And I was going to throw a punch. And 2 mountains came toward me. They were his bodyguards. And I thought better of trying to throw a punch at him. And he said, "Your mom wants me to take you out." And I said, "My mother wants me killed?" Well, somebody says, "I'm taking you out." So I said, he said, "No, stupid, I'm taking you out to dinner. And you and I are going to go to the Apollo Theater in Harlem." And he said, "Do you have a suit?" And I said, "Yeah, I've got a suit." And he said, "Put your suit on. Before you do, take a bath." And I'm standing there looking at this guy who keeps insulting me. He picked me up that evening and he took me to the Apollo Theater. But we didn't go into the theater. We went up the back area and where the dressing rooms were. And he took me into Sammy Davis Jr.'s dressing room.
Oh my God. Oh.
And I'm standing there, and I looked at the marquee, and it said, starring Sammy Davis Jr. And the mayor said to Sam, this is the kid I was telling you about. So he said, Sammy says to me, sit down. I sat down, and I knew who he was. And he said, you're a tough guy, huh? I said, yeah, I'm tough. He said, tough guys wind up with scars and broken bones. He says, you're beyond that. You're so tough that you're going to go to prison or you're going to die.
Right.
And as he said that, I had a gun in my pocket. I had a 25 caliber pistol. And the pistol kept getting heavier and heavier, heavier, heavier.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to tear through my pocket. And I just kept listening to him. And he said, you've got a lot to offer, man. I understand you're funny and you say some funny things on the street. I said, well, I said, all I can think about, you're going to go to prison or you're going to die. He got me a job as a band boy for an all African-American band. I said, what's a band boy? Oh, you go get the charts, put them out in the proper places. After the gig, get everything back in its proper positions and put them away. I said, I can do that.
Yeah.
It was a start for me.
Yes.
Got me a job up in the Catskills.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And he said, I want you to watch the wonderful comedians. And I watched Buddy Hackett.
Yes. Buddy Hackett. Yes.
And all the other comedians that were big hits up in the Catskills.
Red Buttons.
And I learned so much. So I started writing my act. And 20 years later, I was opening for Tony Bennett at the Sand in Las Vegas.
Yes. Isn't that amazing? But doesn't it say a lot about you as a very young man, though? I mean, what age would you have been when you started to write your act? I mean, taking it seriously now as a young person.
Just about the same time that Sammy said, you're a funny guy. That's what I hear. You tell some funny stories.
So 12, 13.
12.
That says a lot about you, though. That says a lot about you must have had the instincts inside you must have been very, very strong. You realized you were given a break.
I didn't know who my mother and father were, truly. I got to look at my birth certificate, and there were 4 different names on my birth certificate. And I said to my mother, which one of these 4 guys is my father? And she slapped me. And I did not ask any more questions. Yeah. My father was in the country illegally and had taken her last name.
Yes.
And so I was upset. My older half brother, when he came back from the military and saw this child, and he kept telling me how I was found in a trash can. My mother found a trash can and brought me home. And all my life he taunted me. And I just got angrier and angrier. And when I was on the streets with other hoodlums, I actually slept in cardboard boxes. Myself and a young man, an old buddy of mine named George Washington Jr. He had the very same kind of background. We didn't know where to go or what to do. We didn't know where to eat. School didn't mean anything. I went to school. I remember my mother taking me to school I was about I guess about 5 or 6 years old. And she didn't have clothes for me. So she took one of my half-brother's shirts, and that's what I wore, and it was huge. And a teacher by the name I never forgot her name, Miss Pierce Sally. She saw me come into class, sleeves dragging up. And she came in the next day with a shirt. She bought a shirt for me. And she said, put this. And then there was this wonderful art teacher named Miss Finan, wonderful Irish lady who was fiery. And she said, and she had a bit of an accent, and she said, so you're a tough guy? And I said, yeah. How would you like to try to fight me? I'd knock you into next Wednesday.
She would too.
And I became her favorite.
Oh my
said, come
God.
on up, tough guy. Come on up. And one time I was at the Copacabana in New York, and in the back was Miss Finan. She must have been close to 90.
He's my boy. He's my boy.
Oh, there's so many things.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And yet, you know, when you were talking about the wrestling too, I had to crack a smile because my grandmother, who was this very proper, very kind of middle class, wonderful old lady, she absolutely loved Big Daddy. And she could tell you, she could give you his back catalog. She, in the 1970s and 1980s, wrestling was all over daytime TV here, you know, in the United Kingdom and Ireland. But she loved it. And when it came to the part in the book where you were talking about the old ladies who used to follow you when you had the name as a wrestler, what was it?
Daniel's Minnesota
Farm Boy. Yeah. And they used to make you, not only did they bring you food, they made you the most incredible costumes.
They did. They presented me with a robe with a stand-up collar, and it was all sequins and spangles and all. They brought me food. They always came. Well, it started, I was wrestling a gentleman who was really good. Oh boy, I learned a lot from him. The expression is, he took me to school.
Yes.
And he had thrown me, and he was about to what they call drop an elbow. He was going to go up in the air and come down on his elbow right into my chest. And as he was winding up, I heard bang, and he grabbed the back of his head. One of the old ladies came into the ring with a bottle of Coca-Cola and hit him in the head. And she said, leave him alone, you bully. He stood there. He looked at her, looked at me, and said, I'm not going to hit her. He said to me, but I'm going to kill you. And I said, kill me? I didn't hit you. She did. Well,
they were your fan club. So he was going to kill you.
She was in her 80s. And she said, they said, get her out of here. I escorted her out of the ring, and I stood there. He said, get back. My opponent said, get back in the ring. And she said, oh, no. I said, you heard? Oh, no. It's dangerous, isn't it? She said, yes. And took my hand, and we left. Needless to say, I was fined.
Oh, hilarious. It's just hilarious. And the fearlessness. But this went on for quite some time. And you had like your you're juxtaposing at this point now your career in wrestling, but to what extent are you still competing in karate? Are you running them both side by side and the comedy at this point?
Yes. There are times that I would go to the dojo, which is where martial arts is practiced.
Yeah.
Not knowing, am I going to be wrestling or is it the martial? I squeeze so much stuff into one area, and wow. I remember they were building me up in wrestling for the championship. I was very good because I was combining wrestling with martial arts.
Yes.
And wrestlers didn't know much about martial arts.
Yes.
I studied Taekwondo, Hapkido, and I wind up having black belts in Karate, Taekwondo, Hapkido, Judo, Jiu-Jitsu. And it was also incredible in wrestling. And it started to gain a tremendous reputation.
Yes.
And it was cut short with an automobile accident.
Oh, that is just an extraordinary story in the book. Absolutely extraordinary. And the fact that your fitness was as great as it was, and you mention in the book how you were able, even though you were covered in a cast, to still manage to keep those minute exercises going, to keep your muscles right. Your recovery from that was incredible, Hank.
My cousin was a nutritionist. I didn't have much to do with him. I knew him through the family. But one day he showed up at the hospital.
Yes.
And he brought a huge box of supplements. And he said, everything is labeled, and here's a chart. And I was in a body cast for 8 months.
Long time.
I was in the hospital for 13 and a half months, including rehabilitation.
Yes.
And they were going to have him arrested, my cousin, for practicing medicine without a license.
Oh.
And he said, it's not medicine, it's supplements, food supplements.
Yes.
They confiscated all the stuff he brought. He showed up the next day with this massive box of candy. It was a 50-pound box of chocolate. And I looked at this thing and he said, you do not eat the candy. The top layer is for the nurses. Underneath the top layer, you'll find all the supplements.
Isn't he clever? Isn't he clever?
Yes. Well, the exercises he gave me was tightening the muscles and releasing, tightening and releasing.
Yes.
And taking a supplement, vitamin C, vitamin A, D3, and on and on and on.
Yes. Yes.
I wound up, they told me I'd never walk again. At one point, I wanted to throw myself out of a window. When I heard that I'll never walk. My father was told that I would never walk, and he destroyed everything I had to remind.
Those lovely garments that those old ladies made for you.
Exactly. He tore everything to shreds.
Oh, that broke my heart when I read that. It really did.
Yeah, it did me too. I can understand. I understood later on.
Yes, yes.
But when I walked out of the hospital, I was walking on my own. Yes. And here are all the nurses, all of skins broken out. They all put on 10 or 15 pounds.
From the sweets, from the candy.
All that candy. Oh, and they said, what a generous soul you are.
Yes, yes. Oh, what a lovely cousin you have.
So, well, thank you kindly. I hope you enjoyed the candy.
Exactly. So what age are you at this stage? 20, 21? Is that about right? Or
Uh, I had to lie about my age in order to get my wrestling license.
oh
I,
yes.
I was wrestling at 16.
Yeah.
You couldn't get a license until you were 21.
Yes, of course. Yeah. But you looked a lot more mature when you were very, very young.
Yes, that's comes from living on the street
Yes.
and
Yeah.
really, oh,
How did you manage? Now, okay, so you're in a phase now where I suppose as a consequence also of the accident, you're aware of the importance of nutrition in your life. But how, like in those years from 13 to the point of the accident, where food was very scarce, but yet you were pumping iron and putting a lot of muscle on, how do you feel you got, where do you feel the main nutrition came from? Because you would have needed a lot of protein.
uh, very careful about what I ate. But God was there. God was right over my shoulder.
You seem to be quite a spiritual guy, Hank.
I am. I
Yeah.
I wasn't always,
Yeah.
but the Anna Marie had set up a situation for me to go to prisons to talk to the young children in prison.
This is a great initiative, a terrific initiative, and I really I was so this is your passion for now, isn't it?
Yes, in fact, we're this is something I. It's called
Ah, yes,
Hankster's Kids.
the Hankster kit. Oh, this is wonderful. This was the name, folks, that Hank acquired over the years, a Hankster.
Exactly. And what we want to do, we have a place to get kids off the street. We want kids of any age, come to us. We don't want a thing from you other than your time. You can play games. There's going to be a recreation center. And by God, if you're hungry, we'll feed you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's wonderful. It's just fantastic. They can get help with their homework. They can get help with,
Yes,
advice, counseling. It's a wonderful idea. And how is it going right now? I mean, how far along in the process do you feel you are?
right now it's just a thought. We talk about it. We haven't done anything with putting funds aside.
Yes.
So far, I've raised money for the disabled vets. I've been doing that
Yes.
forever.
Which the book isn't the book directly connected to raising money for the disabled American veterans.
Yes,
The book
I've,
specifically is
we have we've raised over 60,000.
that is, oh my gosh, congratulations. That is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Oh, well,
That is absolutely wonderful. But also, I think this other project, a lot of these things have their own time, don't they, Hank? So just everybody out there, if you're interested, just get involved in by contacting them. What's the best way to for people to get involved if they want to donate to the project for young kids, the Hankster project? What can they get in? Is it hankgarret.biz? Is that it?
It's harlemhoodlum.com.
harlemhoodlum.com. We'll put that link as well at the end, which is wonderful. Hank, you then moved into an extraordinary area, having been a street fighter. You then, and I'm sure you have great fun telling all the kids that you talk to in the prisons about this too, the young men and the young women you talk to. You became a cop, a real life cop.
Yes, for a minute and a half.
For a minute and a half, but still.
I thought I could make a difference because I remember getting pulled in by the cops. They were looking for a friend of mine, a guy named Lefty. And they got me off the street. took me into a police station and beat the heck out of me.
Oh,
Every cop that came through that door hit me. Where's your friend Lefty? And I said, I don't know. And I didn't. I honestly did not know.
Yeah.
Not that I would have said where, told them, but I truly did not know. And I was a bloody mess.
Yeah.
And a detective came in and said, why don't you tell him where he is? I said, honest to God, I don't know.
Yeah.
He said, okay, wash up. And I got washed up. He says, go, get out of here. I walked 10 blocks, limping, blood all over my face. And I walked to my block, which was 111th Street between Park and Lexington.
Yes, I know those streets. I know Lexington Avenue very well.
Do you?
Yeah. There's a hotel there that I stay in. It's called the Fitzpatrick's. It's a well-known Irish hotel. I read that in the book. I read your description of this, and I just thought, oh my God, I can imagine walking home from school on that street and hearing.
So I walk down, and there's a schoolyard. It's a wonderful school is there, and the schoolyard. There's Lefty playing handball in the schoolyard. I'm taking a beating. He's enjoying handball. I walked to and I hit him. And he said, what did you hit me for? And I said, that's for the beating I took, not knowing where you were. He said, I've been here for the last 2 days. Cops went by that schoolyard every day. So I thought, I'm going to join the police force. I'm going to make a difference. I couldn't make a difference. I tried. And while I was on the police force, a friend of mine, fellow comedian, his wife was a secretary of Matt Hiken, the man who created the Bill Cole show. He said he's working on a new show, and they got me an audition. And the audition was just come meet Matt Hiken.
Yes.
Sat down, and he sat right across from me, smoked incessantly. And he looked at me and said, your name is Ed Nicholson. I said, no, I'm Hank Garrett. He said, just the kind of dummy I'm looking for. He said, the kind of cop I'm looking for is perfect. You're perfect. Yes, Ed Nicholson is the character I want you to play on the show. And I went, oh, gosh. And I could see my friend's wife who's sitting next to Matt Hiken. She's going, oh, dear God.
Well, hey, it was a mistake that secured you the role as well. So what a fantastic show that was. Car 54, Where Are You? It was so hilarious. Played very regularly over here. I don't need to tell you. Absolutely brilliant. And you were amazing in it. You were so funny. And all your wrestling, and as I believe your mum wasn't terribly happy with the fact that you spent more time with the uniform off than on, flexing your muscles and mirrors.
Well, she said, can't they give you a shirt? Why are you always standing in your underwear? I said, it's a T-shirt, Ma. It's underwear.
Oh, look, if anybody has a look on YouTube, there are plenty of scenes that you were in. And they're all up there, but you can hear the comedian's timing coming through, even at that very young age. I mean, what age were you when you started in Car 54? Where Are You?
1960.
So you would have been...
Yeah, I was 19.
You were 19, but you looked so much older.
I know. I never looked like a kid. There's a picture of me in the book when I was 16, and I looked like a man.
Yeah, I mean, this here, I'll just hold it up for it. This here is you.
Yes.
In the series. I mean, you
Yes,
would have put you at 25, 26.
I know.
So
It's
you move on very quickly, though. I mean, this wasn't, to be fair now, this wasn't your first time on stage or in front of a camera. You had some roles before this. And you talk about various different, during James Earl Jones, you came across when you were
oh
very
yeah.
young, didn't you? In Shakespeare in the Park, and you ended up in Paris in a series called Paris with him years later.
We in fact I was co-starring with James Earl
Yes,
Jones.
I know. He's
That was
fantastic.
wow.
A real
Wow.
wow moment. Yes.
Oh, when I was told I was going. In fact, another time I did a film in the British West Indies, and they said that talking to Sophia Loren
Yes,
about
she's
doing the film, and they said, "Oh, we have to discuss. You're doing the film. We have to discuss the money." And I said, "Pay her whatever she wants." They said, "No, dummy, we're talking about what we're going to try to get for you." And I had scenes with Sophia Loren.
yes.
Oh,
That the stories that you recount about her, she seems to be very unspoilt.
she was wonderful.
Yeah.
Very warm, very loving. Uh,
Would stand in the queue with everyone else for their food during, the shoot.
we were on a yacht, uh, and they broke for lunch. Now, the crew had their food in one section, and the stars had their food in another area. And the director, named Michael Winner,
Yes.
he said to Sophia, Sophia, we're having lunch. We're all set up over here. And she was with all the guys, everybody else. There was Sophia. And she said, "No, I'm going to have lunch with them." And he said, "No, no, 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 no. We don't eat that swill." And
Oh,
she said, "I do." And she got online with us. I was part of the crew.
yeah.
The stars were James. Oh, God.
Well, you see, like yourself, she came up the hard way.
Yes,
She hadn't forgotten that.
not at all. Not
I
at
love that. I loved that about her. I loved that. When I was born, they didn't give me a middle name, so at confirmation, I took her name, Sophia, because I loved her.
really.
I loved her. Yeah, I thought she was marvelous.
Oh, she's it. She really is.
And Hank, can I just move on to 3 Days of the Condor? I've got a wonderful fight scene with you there with Robert Redford, another actor who is just outstanding. And you seemed to get on so well with him. And the awards you picked up for this scene, I mean, it's just, it's
Oh,
to this day, this scene stands out because it's so authentic, Hank.
yes, yes. When we were doing Condor, in fact, I won the New York Film Critics for best fight scene,
Best
and I
fight scene, and the other one was the a Las Vegas award for the best fight scene ever, wasn't it?
yes, yes, and it was I oh God,
You can almost see him slipping here. It
I
is this is you, and just behind you have Robert Redford.
oh what a gentleman.
Yeah.
In fact, he stepped out of his dressing room. He wasn't in the shot. There was a tight close up of my face, getting hot coffee thrown into my face. And he came out and he looked at the coffee, and it was smoke coming out of it. And he said, oh, wait a minute. And Sidney Pollack was a close friend of his. I said, Sidney, we're not going to throw hot coffee in Hank's face. And the guy of special effects said, no, it's a chemical. He stuck his finger in it, said, see, and it doesn't burn. He said, what is it? Bob said, what is it? And he said, it's some acid diluted with mineral oil. He said, acid?
Oh my gosh.
He said to Sidney, Sidney, can I throw the coffee? He said, you're not in the shot. He said, I know, I'm going to be off camera. He said, Hank, put his arm around me. He said, I'm going to hit you waist high with the coffee, but I want you to put your hands up in your face as though I hit you in the face.
Yeah.
Come to find out, had that coffee gotten in my eyes, it would have blinded me.
Oh my God.
The acid.
But that was so considerate of him, wasn't it?
Oh God. Now, how do I thank the man for saving my eyesight? I break his nose in the fight. And he called me at home. He said, Hank, wait till you see the fight scene. This is Redford. He said, and oh, incidentally, you broke my nose. No. Incidentally, I broke your nose. I'll never work again in the business. He said, my nose has been broken so many times. Oh, God. Excuse me, I'm just going to have a sip of water.
Go ahead. But really, as I think one of the most iconic roles, and I don't know, as far as I think a lot of us are concerned, it's not only iconic, but it's, you know, that particular image of you as well, you know, with the plastic covered hat and the I don't know, I just felt that it is your image in that particular film will go down as one of the more threatening. Apart from the actual scene, you've actually embodied that very image that people will instantly recognize, because it's certainly one of the film's most iconic images, without a doubt. It's just fantastic.
Thank you.
And there are, like, I mean, Serpico.
Oh, yeah.
Just, Malone is who you played in that, and really, you can see how important a role that was, and how the dynamic between the young officer Al Pacino playing the young officer and the detective Malone. It's just fantastic. Did it resonate with you? I mean, having been an actual real cop at one stage, was there anything that resonated with you? And
the toughness came out.
There we have Al Pacino in the background there, and we have you playing Malone.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah.
It was really one of the most amazing films, wasn't it? I mean, you must have felt, I've died and gone to heaven here, because these roles they'll not be forgotten. I mean, there are actors out there, as you know, and they're very lucky if they get one, maybe two really iconic movies behind them. You got, you know, several of them behind, and TV series playing Columbo's boss, Peter Falk's boss. You were in The Jazz Singer as well. Oh my gosh.
Peter Falk.
Peter Falk, fantastic.
I worked with him in New York. And I had a brief moment. I'm a guy who's sent into his office. He's an attorney. And he's not doing too well. I've come to take back the furniture. So now they don't tell me who the star is. said, Hank, you want to pick up a day's work? My agent. I said, yeah.
No,
He
hang
said,
on. You don't know who you're playing opposite.
no, I
They
had no,
haven't told you.
no. I just had the one scene.
Just had the lines,
Yes.
right?
So now, action. I pick up a chair, and I'm walking out with the chair, and I hear, hey, what are you doing with my furniture? And I dropped the chair and I said, it's Peter Falk.
So would I.
Yeah. And they said, cut. Hank, we know it's Peter Falk.
Yeah, but I didn't.
Exactly. So we played the scene of Peter and I became friends. In fact, we went later on that day to a place called McGurr's, and we're shooting pool together.
Very good.
Now I play his boss in California years later. And Peter says to me, I understand that you were doing an impression of me, right? In your act. I said, well, I don't do impressions anymore, Peter. Have I lost favor with you? Is that what you're trying to say? I said, no.
Giving you the green light.
It's going to be the Peter Falk show.
But this is the thing about you, Hank, though. You have this, this is where I think you've got a bit of Irish in you there somewhere, because I know most Irish, particularly my grandmother's generation and older, whenever they talk about someone, they would automatically go into their accent and go into their personality. You know, it was very normal. Wonderful. You could do this at the drop of a hat. Really?
Well, I was such a fan of Peter's. Oh,
yeah, wow. But your accents, I mean, as a voiceover, that was the week that was. Do you remember with David Frost, your incredible accents?
Oh, yeah.
Chinese, Italian, Greek, you name it.
Yes. It was gibberish that I learned from watching several different shows.
But it was plausible gibberish. It was totally
Sid Caesar. Oh, yeah. In fact, Sid said to me, Peter said, what I want you to do, go crazy, Hank. You're a Chinese delivery man. And they made me up. Just go nuts. Pay no attention to anyone, anything. And that was the week that was.
Oh, that was just fantastic. People waited for you to come on. I don't know if you appreciate just how much you almost, if you like, outshone David Frost on this. People waited for the moment in the show when you would come on, because you were a different character every time.
Thank you.
It was absolutely fantastic. But also, I mean, younger audiences will remember you did two of the voices. You did Fluffy in Garfield. You were G.I. Joe. This incredible ability to do. And your voice, even now, I mean, I'm a singer, so I will tune in automatically to people's voices. But you have such a well-preserved voice. Your everything is clear. Your tone. You still have that very, very well structured diaphragmatic muscle ability, and it's there. It shows in the voice immediately. So you've got all your head voice, your chest voice, everything is there. Do you still do voiceover work? Is that something that is still open to you now?
I'm so involved in so many things, and wow.
Yeah, that maybe now working with the kids is the thing that is your focus. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that is something that a lot of people, if they know that this is what you're working towards, will want to jump on. And I'd love to push that a lot further. But just going back to your book for a moment. So there are two things, in other words, that you are working with. So it's the proceeds. Am I correct in saying that with the exception of the costs, the proceeds of this book go to the disabled American veterans?
We take our cost.
Yes.
And the proceeds go to the disabled vets and also to Hankster's kids.
Both. Okay, both. Yes. That's very important. Yes. Well, this is just, you know what I loved about this book from a writing point of view, and this is writer's block, is it's extremely difficult to write a memoir that has a central figure with so many crossover careers, which you had, apart from, of course, the personal life as well. And to be able to find a way to put this together in a very, very easy, it's so easy to read. It is so entertaining. And I thought yourself and Diana came up with a really, really good way of doing it, a simple way. You are, as a comedian, someone who you describe yourself as a storyteller comedian. And it's as though you went the same direction with the book. I'm going to put, the Carson Show, and then do the story. And you picked basically stories and strung the whole thing together in that way, which made it so entertaining.
That's her.
I just loved it. It's very, very good. It's really wonderful memoir.
Thank you so much. Deanna Marie, I would tell her some of my experiences, and she would go to work.
Oh, she did a brilliant job of editing this. This was a very, very good approach to take the storyteller point of view. Lots and lots of short stories that just work. They really, really work, which means for anyone who likes to read on the train or on the bus and, a commuter list, this actually falls into that category as well, because you can literally just take a story, read that, put it aside.
Listen to this. Here she is.
There she is. Oh, hi. How are you? It's so lovely to see you.
So lovely to meet you.
And this is wonderfully edited. It's so sympathetic. And you keep Hank's voice out there the whole time. It's wonderful.
Thank you for seeing that. Wow.
No, really, 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 because it's tough. He's got so many careers. He's got about 7 different things that he does really, really well throughout his life. And how do you string it all together and make it work? This was an excellent approach. It really, really was.
When I first started working with him, I would say, you couldn't have done this and this and this. And I wanted to work with him really to prove he was wrong. I had to apologize.
Because you realize, you really have done all these things. Well, it's just, I can imagine how fantastic it is for those young people that you go in and see, which is obviously your brainchild as well, Dana Marie, going into the prisons. I can't imagine the effect his story must have on these young people. From your perspective, how do you feel it's affected them?
How do you feel? He gets tears in his eyes between you and me sometimes.
And I'm sure they do as well.
She brings me back to a time of my life when I didn't think there was much of a life. And I thought, this is the way I'm going to spend my life, here on the street, or wind up either dead or in prison. And she also is very religious, not very religious, but
spiritual.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you.
You must be too with your recovery, the accident, the recovery.
My goodness. And as I said off camera to Hank, thank you both so much for being so sympathetic. Just for people watching, this is my first interview back after a really serious accident last month, and I had a really bad concussion. It's the second worst concussion I've ever had in my life. The first one, I was 3 days unconscious, but this one was the second worst. And you forget, nearly 50 years on from the other one, you forget that you're older now, and it takes a long time to actually, even now, my brain, I'm forgetting things. But I have recovered, and the interview that I should have done on the night of the interview was the one with Hank. It should have been with Hank 4 hours later, and out of the blue, my wall in front of me collapsed with all the heavy duty shelving, and everything came down. My computer, my studio, everything has had to be repaired. And these two people were so kind, and they, and another celebrity could have been very annoyed over the whole thing, sitting there waiting for me to come on, and it didn't happen. I'm in the ER room, think to myself, you've a bad concussion, and you were about to talk to the man who could write the book on concussions. But they were so kind and sympathetic, and I am very, very grateful to you for rescheduling and coming back to us today, Hank. And Diana Marie, you are so, so good to have done that. This is my first one back, and I'm delighted it was you. I really am delighted it was you.
Well, you're a delight yourself. Wow.
No, not at all. Everybody, weren't we lucky today? Hank Garrett and Diana Marie Smith, his manager and the lady in his life, and a force to be reckoned with, I can tell you. Fantastic lady who I'm hoping I can interview very soon. I'm hoping I can. We have to organize that, Diana.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Please, a very, very talented woman. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Hank Garrett, thank you so much for being with me today, and for all your patience and your kindness. And I will let you go now, because I know you have a big appointment yourself later on. But everybody, please get this book. It is absolutely wonderful. It is supporting the Disabled American Veterans Association and this very special project which Hank and Diana have put together, which is for his Hanksters, is his young people who need support on the streets. It's in its embryonic stages, but it is definitely going to happen. And this is his passion right now, helping these young people. So go out there, get that book. It is really a wonderful read. There's so much advice in there. I am so fortunate to have had you with me today, Hank. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
No worries, and thank you. Look after yourselves today.